So Allison, did you do anything to send Arnold into therapy?
Yes, I did, Susan.
Hello, is this Mrs. Mayfield speaking?
Yes, this is Mrs. Mayfield. You must be Mrs. Mavling, right?
Right. This is Mrs. Mavling on the phone. I just want to let you know that your son, Arnold, and his girlfriend, Kayleigh, will be able to rejoin GoAnimate City Public Schools. The reason why we did this is because they received over 100 belt whoopings by a psycho teacher, and we didn't want to have them receive these cruel punishments even though they are vile troublemakers. Also, he made Arnold and Kayleigh take off their clothes and be naked for no reason. We have fired that teacher and he has been sentenced for a 15-year to life prison sentence at Shawwell Supermax Prison without a possibility of parole due to child abuse and neglect, and thus, to prevent even more child abuse and neglect, we have made a decision to lift Arnold's and Kayleigh's expulsion, and I'm recommending you not to send them to GoAnimate or Alternative Academy again.
That's very good. Even though I know my son is a villainous troublemaker, I don't want to have him experience so much child abuse and neglect. When will he and Kayleigh be able to attend school?
On next Monday. Please have you, Arnold, Kayleigh and her parents join a conference in the conference room to receive further information.
All right, we're about to get en route to GoAnimate City Public Schools. See you later.
See you later.
Who was that?
That was Mrs. Mavling. We need to go to a conference soon.
A few moments later.
Good morning, Mrs. and Mr. O'Brien, and Mr. and Mrs. Mayfield, and welcome to the conference here at GoAnimate City Public Schools. Before we start, we will be introducing ourselves, even though we already know most of you. We'll be doing clockwise, starting with myself, Mrs. Louisa Mavling, Principal of GoAnimate City Public Schools.
Mr. Geraint Winston, Vice Principal.
Mr. Adrian Mitchell, Assistant Principal.
Mrs. Matilda Johnston, Arnold's and Kayleigh's German teacher.
Mr. Justin Bluford, Arnold's and Kayleigh's student assistant.
Mrs. Charlotte Murray Powell, Mr. Winston's assistant. And yes, I've changed my name because I got married.
Kayleigh, introduce yourself.
Fine. If I have to do it. Kayleigh O'Brien, student.
Arnold Mayfield, student.
Allison Mayfield, Arnold's mother.
Paul Mayfield, Arnold's father.
Susan O'Brien, Kayleigh's mother.
Matthew O'Brien, Kayleigh's father.
Mrs. Samantha Nichols, Arnold's and Kayleigh's math teacher.
Mr. Jonathan Storbridge, Arnold's and Kayleigh's science teacher. And no, I'm not Mr. Winston's twin brother if you are asking me that.
Mrs. Annette Lauren, Arnold's and Kayleigh's class teacher.
All right everyone, since we have introduced ourselves, we will now tell you why we are lifting your expulsions.
I'm going to turn on the smart board for that. Mrs. Mavling has made a video on Vine replicating the story. So, this is where it all began. It was an usual school day at GoAnimate Alternative Academy, with Arnold and Kayleigh being in a math class with Mr. Bottlefield. Arnold has raised his hand, and it was his turn. He said the wrong answer, and his teacher shouted at him and gave him a belt whooping. As a revenge, Kayleigh also received belt whoopings by the teacher. Both of them have received 100 belt whoopings each, and he made them take off their clothes and be naked in class. One of his classmates was so angry that he reported Mr. Bottlefield to his principal. His other classmates were also angry at the teacher. He stomped crazily into the principal's office and reported the teacher for child abuse and neglect. Because of this, the principal got the police involved in this situation and called 999. Mr. Bottlefield came, but was arrested shortly after. After that, due to child abuse and neglect, he was sent to jail for 15 years to life at Shawwell Supermax Prison without a possibility of parole. So, that was everything what happened at GoAnimate Alternative Academy.
Oh my goodness. The teacher went too far. Thank goodness he is rotting himself in jail now.
I agree with you, Susan. Do you agree with her as well, Matt?
There's no way I'm disagreeing with you two. What he did was cruel and traumatizing.
Because of this, I've made a decision to lift your expulsion, so you will be safe from the torture school. Honestly, I'm recommending you to avoid enrolling into GoAnimate Alternative Academy, as it's nothing but some military school ripoff or something like that, as they just treat you like a demon.
However, there will be some restrictions you guys will be facing. Firstly, you guys will not be able to sit next to each other for the rest of the school year. Secondly, since you cheated on an essay using ChatGPT in Mrs. Lauren's English class, you will be prohibited from using any page on the internet unless your teachers always say so. We will be unlocking pages for you and your class if it is part of your lessons.
Third off, if you need to use the bathroom, the only time you are allowed to do so is at break, or after school, unless you mean it. Fourth off, like we already told you at the first day of Year 9, if you cause any trouble at school, we will make you sign a behavior contract, which will be valid for the entire school year. Here are your behavior contracts. If you don't sign the behavior contract, you will be receiving an out-of-school suspension until you do.
Fifth off, you will be taking a different school bus where Dave won't be the school bus driver. If you misbehave once while you two are on board the bus, you will be receiving a referral along with a 5-hour after-school detention and, of course, the mandation to sign a behavior contract. Sixth off, you two will not be able to participate in any school activities or field trips for the rest of your time at GoAnimate City Public Schools, or if you complete a full school year without causing a single bit of trouble.
And last but not least, your 17-hour detentions will be remade. Instead of you having 2 6-hour and 1 5-hour after-school detentions, you two will be having 3 5.5-hour after-school detention, and this will be happening on Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. Your in-school suspensions, consisting of 14 days in total, will be done starting for Monday 2 weeks straight with weekends and holidays being excluded. Your out-of-school suspension, which would be 21 school days in that case, would be turned into in-school suspensions, but since you already have 14 days of in-school suspension, and we don't want to give you even more in-school suspension, we will be cancelling the 21-day in-school suspension, and so will your 4-day out-of-school suspension. And before I forget, your 6-hour Saturday detention online will be turned into an in-person detention. However, due to the fact that we are going to postpone the detention to Tuesday after your in-school suspensions, that Saturday designation of the detention will no longer be valid.
Since the pair of you are in the same class, Mr. Bluford will be your student assistant for the rest of your time here. You can just call him Justin if you like, it doesn't matter for him. Your first day here will be on Monday next week. And you two better be on your best behavior, and if you don't, you two will be signing a behavior contract just like recently.
Anyway, if there's nothing else to discuss, then we can end the meeting now. Feel free to go home now.